No, you met Norman Holmes Pearson?
I saw Norman Holmes Pearson. I don't think I ever met Norman Holmes Pearson, but I can remember my father, he was hunchback. He had like a hump back, and he was walking down the street. My father was like, that guy, his name Norman Holmes Pearson, and he said he's famous for studying like Beowulf and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And he was like, and he was a spy. He was this famous spy. And
he is Smiley, basically.
Yeah, he was Smiley, basically. So I saw Norman Holmes Pearson. I can still remember it too. He was walking past Maury's. I think he'd come out of Maury's.
Holy shit!
My father pointed. My father was really like, ooh.
That's great.
Like, my father was a young professor at the time, so my father was just like,
what?
And he was like, and Norman Holmes Pearson. Yeah. That's
too bad. James Jesus Angleton didn't stroll the. Probably did.
I mean, oh, totally. Absolutely. Still known James Jesus Angleton. Well, I'm told it's actually James Jesus Angleton.
Yes.
I'm told
that's some information to trade. Thank you.
I think that it's
like William Carlos Williams or something.
Because his mother was Mexican. Mexican. Which is interesting for a guy who seems like just the quintessential like establishment WASP CIA.
I went to my film class TA meeting, first the day Orson Welles had died. I didn't even know he had died. And the TA was there weeping. This woman was like, learn something right there.
I remember you telling me that, and I actually don't think it was, I remember you telling me that, and I actually think it wasn't until you were taking those classes in college and that I really got Orson Welles.
It's like when she said that I like suddenly like, oh my God, you mean the guy who does the wine commercial?
I know, you mean the guy?
I mean, I knew Citizen Kane or whatever. But
I was like,
yeah.
It was like, it just like mind reading shit. It was like the guy who does like the cheesy like Nostradamus like documentaries. I was like that guy, and then I didn't get it. My father, I can remember as a kid watching this. There was a TV show that he hosted where it was like the Twilight Zone, and it was Orson Welles, and he would kind of appear at the beginning, and he sort of had his hat and this like, and a cane.
It's giant hat.
Yeah, and he would sort of be like walking with a cane and with a sort of cigar, and he would be like, and he would introduce these kind of like tales of terror things, and like that's one of the ways I knew him. I knew him from Merv Griffin when he would be like,
magic.
In this envelope, Merv, I have the winner of the Academy Award. Now you saw me. I sealed this envelope 2 weeks ago. And Merv would be like, yes, Orson, you absolutely did.
He always calls him Merv.
But that's what was great about it was he was a total, he appreciated that. He appreciated popular. He was popular.
Yeah, he was happy to be up there being a ham and
yeah. He was not against pop culture. He fucking did that great War of the Worlds thing. I mean, which is like the most genius work of pop culture like ever. Citizen Kane is so pulpy and fun and poppy and pulpy.
And all his later movies are fun too.
High and Mr. Arkadin are these like crazy, like fucking. It's all
F is for fake. That's like a homemade, a digital movie in a way or something.
I thought I saw this documentary with you that had all of these clips of things he never finished in it.
Where he plays like 12 characters.
Yes, the weird, like, he plays like a Bobby and he plays like it's really weird.
Psychedelic, that stuff. Psychedelic. It's really strange. Yeah.
But that has footage from Other Side of the Wind in it, and it's like that fast. Right. It's like, my God, it's so far ahead of its time.
Wow, yeah.
It's like crazy. It's so far ahead of its time. It's like,
and then to think of like the third man just as an actor. I guess he wrote his lines too in that time, I think. That's what they say. Yeah. But I mean, he like changed the history of Earth as an actor in that role.
It's almost like he really did. It's almost like his presence in a movie as an actor turns it into an Orson Welles movie.
I know, exactly.
Orson Welles made this movie too, didn't he? It's called Black Magic. Have you ever seen it? He's younger in it. It's like Citizen Kane era, and it's this like total kind of B movie. And he plays Cagliostro. He plays the famous like charlatan magician guy, and it's this whole plot about stealing these jewels, and it's this 18th century thing, and it's this kind of schlocky thing. But when you watch it, you're like, this is an Orson Welles movie. Like, this is amazingly cool because of the presence in it. And like that movie, there's other things he did. There's this schlocky, weepy melodrama he did called Tomorrow is Forever. It's like the stupid, weepy like thing, and he's in it. Suddenly it becomes one of his movies.
Is there a spaghetti western he did? I can't remember.
Oh God, that would be amazing.
God, I think there might be.
You have Orson Welles. You just saved my mind. I feel like you just dosed me with acid right now. Just like, oh my God, the lost Orson Welles spaghetti western. Holy shit! If there is, there should be.
Yeah.
That's like Conan Doyle writing the fucking Napoleon tales. Wow, dude, you just blew my mind. If that doesn't exist, it should. He would have been amazing in one of those. Maybe he was in something.
He would be the corrupt villain, obviously. I mean, he would be obviously, yeah.
It's perfectly possible he was in some, like...
Yeah, no, totally, because he was always, I think he is in one, because he was always bumming around Europe, looking for jobs.
Well, that Black Magic movie is some weird, like, co-production Italian thing. It's like some kind of schlocky, like...
Well, he makes them, I would argue, almost paranormal. There's something...
Yeah.
I mean, and I hate to say it, it has to do with War of the Worlds. There's something forever science fictional about him now.
There is, absolutely.
There was an alien invasion for like an hour.
There was an alien invasion.
And is it true or just a fantasy of mine that H.G. Wells and him actually spoke?
They do. H.G. Wells is like, it's very interesting to me that we share a common name, and yet you have the extra E in it, and yet it must be, and he's just talking about that, and Orson Welles is Wells is very likely, isn't he?
It's like, I'm talking to H.G. fucking Wells.
He's very sort of respectful to it.
Yeah.
It's like, man, he was the shadow of fucking Orson Welles.
I know.
This is another interesting thing that I think is a thing for us to talk about. And unfortunately, I'm recording all of this. I've been recording for a while. So we have a whole other thing we can...
Wow, we have a new show.
This is super interesting to me. Why is it that there are some people who can function as like almost fictional characters? Like, why is it that Abraham Lincoln can exist as a fictional character in a way that like some other guys...
How many science fiction... Well, let's just say science fictional, because Star Trek, Philip K. Dick.
What is it about Lincoln that is this weird thing that he's science fiction?
I don't know.
And it's him, and Mark Twain is the other one I think of like this. Okay. And I think of Orson Welles and the same thing. It's like, what is... I mean, you can say that like you can do things about John F. Kennedy, but you can do something about Kennedy. Like you can do a thing about like, I have to stop the Kennedy assassination. You can do that, but you can't necessarily have Kennedy.
No, I would not say Kennedy. No, the person of Kennedy, no, he's in James Ellroy books. He's not in science fiction books.
You can sort of have Teddy Roosevelt show up in something, maybe, but like...
But H.G. Wells is often in stuff.
Him too, and he's also in something.
Yes.
Like, why does it work? But why does it work?
It's just Lincoln? A mysterious sum of them.
Why does it work with Lincoln? Because it's like this cosmic.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's almost.
I think there's something about that scene in Star Trek, the original series, where you see Lincoln in space. They say, "What's coming on the screen, Captain?" And it's just Lincoln in his chair. There's something fucking profound about that. I don't know.
Super profound. It is. But here's a theory I'm coming up with right now, and that it's like there's something Christ-like about Lincoln, something that's so transcendent, because you can obviously do a lot of science fiction stuff about Christ and stuff like that, and the Buddha and stuff like that. And so there's maybe something so religious about him that it becomes this like transcendent thing. But then in almost the opposite way, Twain works the opposite way. He's like the pure man of reason who's just sort of like, they're totally like rumors of Mars are being exaggerated. So kind of like, and it's also got something to do with like the country thing too or something. And it's like, and Wells is from fucking Wisconsin. You know, and it's like there's some sort of like
Kenosha Kid.
attachment. I don't know what it is. Dude, I just was sitting here going like, I should play Mark Twain in something.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I did a pretty good Mark Twain.
That was good, yeah.
I reread Pudd'nhead. I read Pudd'nhead Wilson for the first time. Only a couple.
Oh, yeah.
About 4 or 5 years ago, I took this crazy trip down to Tobago.
Right.
Did I? Amazing, dude. It was amazing.
You were like, fuck Trinidad.
So nobody goes there. It's not a touristy place. And this friend of mine, you know, Diane, is originally from Tobago.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So she set you up with some friends down there?
She set me up with a friend of hers down there. And then I went out into this guy let me rent his car for about a week. And he was like, yeah, you can take my car. So I took his car away up on the coast in this fucking gigantic beach. There was nobody there. And I got a room in this place called the Blue Mango, which was this woman ran it. And it turns out when I told Diane that I'd stayed there, she was like, oh, that's my cousin. Everybody was her cousin. And it was like, she was just like, that's my cousin. And I stayed in this place. And it was there were these little rooms built on a cliff. And there were these really like ramshackle rooms built on these cliffs overlooking the water. It was amazing. And I had like this view of the fucking Caribbean. And at night, the electricity would go off at night. And you had to read by, candlelight and stuff like that. And I read Pudd'nhead Wilson there, which was a really weird place to read Pudd'nhead Wilson. But that book blew my mind.
It's a little like Faulkner or something, right? Like, yeah.
The slave and the slave gets
Yeah.
like the black child can pass as white enough that.
And it's a detective story in a way too, right? Yeah.
Without Pudd'nhead Wilson figures out with fingerprints.
It's very like those awesome Faulkner Knight's Gambit stories.
Brought with me here.
Yes.
I've never read them. That was a really cool experience, was reading Pudd'nhead Wilson of all things.
Maybe it was a little bit like the Mississippi or something in the...
Well, yeah, and it was like the whole cultural thing of it was crazy. The whole cultural mishmash of it was wild.
Well, recently I read that Black Jacobins book by him.
That's a great...
Man, that sure revolutionizes your view of that part of the world.
That totally was. That guy, C.L.R. James, right?
Yes. Also of Napoleon. That really was the first time I was like, oh, that's why Napoleon really is an asshole. I could never really pin it down, but you really could find it in the history of Haiti.
Right, that's true. Yeah. Nobody has ever done a proper treatment of that. Spike Lee wanted to do a Toussaint Louverture thing, but
the thing is, he had these other characters around him that were really cool too,
Or fucking insane, crazy, incredible.
And that they beat everyone who ever, like, no army could beat them. They
were amazing. Amazing. Have you ever seen that movie Burn? That Marlon Brando movie?
Oh no! You know what? I asked them to. They're buying it at the video store my office is attached to because I asked them to.
You should check it out.
Once you learn that history, like, oh my God, it all goes back to Haiti. All those problems, in a way, go back to the story of Haiti, of them not allowing that to happen. Like, they just cannot capture it. Whatever. You have to read the book.
I mean, and you're sitting there going, but you're having this revolution in France. This is exactly what you should be.
Exactly. And for a while, the French knew that and helped. Yeah. Like, oh, that's when it also makes you realize, according to this book, that Paris, all that rich, beautiful Paris that you see when you walk these glittering white city, it's all the money from Haiti built that. I never realized that. It's all this like sugar.
Colonization things.
Yeah.
Yeah, because but essentially they were sending like commissars over there to kind of control them, to not really, really allowing them a real revolution. It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. And then Napoleon is just a fucking asshole.
He reinstated slavery, after the French had.
No, it's just terrible. But I don't understand why nobody, it's such an incredible story. I'm
sure there's been a play or something.
Pushkin's grandfather, I think it is. Great-grandfather. The poet Pushkin, the Russian.
Yeah.
I think it was I can't remember if it was his grandfather or his great-grandfather. I think it was his grandfather. Was an African slave.
Really?
That Peter the Great on his tour of Europe was in Paris, and this guy was in Paris in the palace in Paris, and Peter the Great somehow started talking to him and was like, "You're a genius. You're going to come with me." And he took him back to Moscow, gave him his freedom, sent him to the military academy, and he became a general.
So cool.
This guy from
What stories?
something.
Yeah.
From like
And then his grandson became Russia's greatest poet. Like sparked off their whole literary
fountainhead of everything.
Because everyone loved that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and you're just like, that is fucking
wow.
Mind-blowingly amazing. And I'm like, why isn't somebody? I wonder if the Russians have ever made a movie about him.
Was there a novel about Dr. Johnson's companion? Was he Cuban or African? He was an ex-slave.
He had some sort of footman who was a slave or something.
Yeah, no, but it was all his life, and then he left his house to him and everything.
That's right.
And I think the guy went back to America.
An amazing name.
Yeah.
And he was like,
Oh, his name was Francis Barber. Wild. Well, Dumas was also we didn't mention in our childhood days, but also those books were just fucking great to read as a kid. I mean, they were the Harry Potter or whatever, where you're just like, oh. He was African, right? Or half African?
Again, there was something, he had a grandfather, a father who was in the Napoleon's army. He was a colonel or a general.
Oh, yeah.
Napoleon, wasn't he?
I think so. Dumas Père.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you see pictures of him.
But he looks,
You see pictures of him, and Pushkin too. Just like, well, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Of course. But it's like...
That was like you when you discovered your Pacific Islander DNA.
Jesus Christ. That, I can't, what that guy's life must have been like.
What he saw
Pushkin's
between worlds and
God's name was that guy's life must have just been like,
it's like the Odyssey or something,
He's like the craziest Odyssey.
It's like a Herzog movie or something. It's crazy.
But to me, it is like some Herzog. It's just like, what the fuck?
I know. He's like commanding Russian armies. What the fuck is going on?
An extraordinary figure. And it's like, what the fuck, man?
Secretism refers to the active invocation of secrecy as a source of a group's identity, the promotion of the reputation of special access to restricted knowledge, and the successful performance or staging of such access. In the case of Haiti, in the religion of Vodou, as it was merged with political objectives by François Duvalier during his tenure as president for life from 1957 to 1971, Duvalier represented himself in his discourse as being possessed of the historical spirit of the revolutionary hero Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and in his style impersonated the Vodou Guédé spirit Baron Samedi. Since his death, he has, by some reports, himself become a spirit. Loa 22 Os.